You have some issues you're not happy about. You have some things you're angry about regarding the condition of the world.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. Really, do not get me started. You will not be happy with it if I get started on it.
Well, just a couple of minutes on that, maybe.
I'm horrified. Being as old as I am and remembering the way things were in the 60s, I'm totally horrified at the shit going on.
And it seemed like things were coming together.
It did. It did. And after Watergate, I thought that the public had really learned a lesson.
You have to ask yourself, what is their objective? What is their goal? Because it certainly doesn't correlate with anything that the Urantia Book talks about in terms of progressive social evolution.
You know, my faith in humanity, I have to say this. You know, these people who might say, you know, that they're, you know, that they don't like a certain group, let's say, you know, that they don't like black people or that they don't like Hispanics, but some of my best friends are black people or Hispanics or something. I say that. I say, you know, I really don't like human beings, but some of my best friends are human beings. You know, that's, you know, my faith in mankind gets progressively less, even though there's a lot of individual people that I know that I really like a lot. I'm more concerned about the American public than I am about ISIS. But the amazing thing to me is, you know, that Chinese curse / blessing, may you live in interesting times.
Right.
Okay. On the one hand, there's like this regressive movement. Maybe the Confederate flag's not a regressive movement, because that's been there all along, you know, in the South. But the whole thing with oh, the rich people shouldn't have to pay taxes. Since when? Okay, I mean, who got this idea? That's ridiculous, okay? But then on the other hand, there has been this, like, suddenly, with tolerance in a whole bunch of other areas, transgender people. And then there's this regressive social movement and the other. That's pretty mind-blowing.
You have to wonder, what is the trend?
There's more than one trend. That's the thing. There is more than one trend.
Right.
I mean, I think the people that are tolerant of gay weddings are also the people who think that rich people should be paying taxes. You know, a little common sense. That's really what I'd like to see. But I think that there's so many people who are so easily brainwashed. You know, they are so easily sidetracked. For example, a well-educated person, okay, is not concerned at all about Scott Walker. I mean, you know, this is somebody who lives in Wisconsin, okay, and yet he says that he could never vote for Hillary Clinton because what's this whole business? Why was she hiding her emails or something? He can't see that this was cooked up to draw attention away from real issues. Scott Walker in Wisconsin is a problem. Hillary Clinton and her emails, that doesn't affect him living in this state when he's got a governor who's trying to take the state of Wisconsin back. You know, I don't care about paying $10 less on my property taxes. I'm talking about in Florida now, where, you know, our great governor, another jackass, same ilk, you know, another person who got in because of spending $1 gazillion on his campaign. You can't have a democracy when money is playing this kind of role. You cannot have a true democracy. It's horrifying. It's really scary. I'm really worried about the United States. I never would. Well, I mean, I've never been that worried about the United States before, actually. And I've lived through a lot of elections.
the wealthy corporate class are getting into public education.
They're getting into a lot of things.
Right. They're getting
That's
into
one of them.
They're getting into the public sector. And all of the things that we take for granted as, well, we drive on the interstate highways. They're not toll roads. They're public, they're common access places like state parks and national parks and well, public education as well. But they're trying to get into that and privatize it. And once it's privatized, it's gone because the public doesn't have any more say over it. It's like, we can hide whatever we want. We can do whatever we want with it. We can charge whatever we want for it. And it all goes into our little private pockets, so to speak. And nobody sees to see
Nobody,
that.
no, nobody does. I mean, I know. I mean, there's a myth. I mean, I had kind of believed it myself that sometimes government bureaucracies are maybe inefficient, which may be true.
Well,
in some cases, I don't know. In the state of Florida, the foster care system, it was privatized. But the thing is, it functions really badly. It functions just as badly as the Department of Welfare did before. Maybe it functions even worse. So privatizing it, in this case, did not make it better.
Privatization, if it goes bad, there's no recourse. I mean, you can say, well, I'm not going to pay for that anymore, or I'm not going to send my kids there anymore. But if there's no option, what do you do? But if public service, you can go to your elected representative and say, hey, we need this changed. And then eventually, it might take 2 or 3 or 4 years, but maybe something can be done.
At least there's some hope.
Right.
That is, if you're, if you've got a working political system.
How has your knowledge of the Urantia Book influenced your sense of social justice?
Well, look, I've always had a sense of social justice, okay? I mean, the Urantia Book didn't really change that, okay? Well, I'll tell you one thing, the Urantia Book makes me think I'm going to be glad to leave this planet because I know where I'm going, and I really look forward to it, which is not that I'm going to hasten my going there because, I do think that my life on Earth is important, and I certainly want to help as many people as I can while I'm here. I don't know. I think maybe being a reader of the Urantia Book, in terms of the stuff I see going on now, maybe it's made me even angrier. I don't know. I'd be angry anyway. I mean, I was angry about this before I found the Urantia Book, so I don't know. I seem to have a very large quotient of righteous indignation, which is like, I don't mind when shit happens. I mean, I can accept that. That tragedies happened in life, or that, that there's tidal waves, or, or droughts or things like that. But when people who are in positions of power are taking advantage of other people and are allowed to get away with it, that makes me crazy. That really makes me crazy. And the Urantia Book says, in talking about Jesus, who was really angry when he overturned the tables in the temple, it says that we should use force in not allowing a minority, to a rebellious minority, I'm not sure if that might have been the term, to get away with exploiting, other people. And I feel really strongly about that. I'm a therapist, I'm a social worker in private practice, clinical social worker, and I think God sends me people who are too nice because I'm not so nice. I help them not be taken advantage of by other people. And they catch on, they get it pretty quickly. That makes me really happy for them.
So you're in the trenches, as they say.
Yes.
So you see it from the bottom.
I do, Yeah.
I mean, you see the decisions that are made politically and by the social elites, by the rich and powerful, so to speak. You see the effects down at the bottom of the ladder.
We have got to speak up. I mean, when wrong things happen, whether it's on a little scale or on a big scale, we have got to speak up. We may not be able to control the effects of that. We might not be able to get things to go the way we want them to, but at the very least, we have to speak up.
It's a moral duty.
It is a moral duty.
And
it is a moral duty.
And the Urantia Book would agree.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly in the story of Jesus, absolutely.
Yes.
I've been so much angrier since President Obama was elected. Not because of President Obama himself, but I was so amazed when Obama was elected. Not so much because he was a black man, although that was amazing enough in itself. But what I was amazed at was that this incredibly intelligent, articulate person was elected. And I thought the country was in a terrible economic situation. And I thought, you know what? Now, the Republicans and the Democrats really have to come together for the good of the country. That's what makes me more angry than anything. I can hardly believe, since he was elected, I have never seen Republicans be so incredibly evil. The lies, it's egregious wrongfulness. I mean, that's the only way I can put it. The things they vote against, anything Obama is for, they'll be against it. They have concentrated everything they have and all this money, and that Supreme Court decision was shortly after he was elected, the Citizens United, on just pulling him down, defeating Obamacare. They have done nothing for the good of the country. They have not cared at all about the good of the country. I mean, frankly, it's like they're traitors. I mean, they're really traitors.
Well,
and I've never seen this in my entire life. As an American, I have never seen one of the regular political parties lockstep. And I think that's why people of my generation are so furious, because for us, this is not the way it's supposed to be. We're this old and we've never seen anything like this. How could this even be? It's shocking. It's totally disheartening. It's extremely depressing. It's extremely depressing. It really, really is. And I mean, part of it has got to be racist. They'd never admit it, of course. They'd never admit it, never. But how else would they ever be so totally disrespectful? Of course, I believe, though, that now that they have gotten on this bend for the past 8 years, probably whatever Democrat is elected, they'll probably just continue on in the same way. Now they've gotten into this way of being. Of course, if a Republican is elected, they'll go back to being respectful, and any minor criticism on the part of anybody else, they'll immediately jump all over. They're hypocrites, liars, and they have no shame. No shame. They rewrite history. Absolutely.
Something happened in the past, and I believe that they think, well, the public they're speaking to doesn't care, doesn't remember, so they can say anything they want to fill in the gaps.
And you know what? That's probably true for a large part of the public, because that seems to be true. Oh, for-profit health care. Oh, God. One of my patients who's a nurse, somebody who I dearly love, we were talking about for-profit health care. And she was telling me how she's seen patients die as a result of for-profit health care, which I don't doubt. How immoral is this? The United States is, I don't know if there's any other country in the world that has for-profit health care. There's no other civilized country that has for-profit health care.
All of that, given its relevance and impact, its societal impact, should be a function of government.
Mm-hmm.
Should be a public function.
Absolutely.
You would agree with Martin Luther King when he said, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it tends toward justice.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I totally agree that the watchword of the universe is progress. I do. And I also think, and of course growth is evolutionary, which I also believe, and also I also believe in process, because it's really important to understand this, that progress is not like this. It's not like a rocket taking off. It's more like this. It's more like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I think it's the same thing with history. It's like you have progress, and then, you know, there's going to be reactionary forces trying to pull it back. And maybe they will in the short term, but they won't in the long term. And maybe it just needs to be that things need to get bad enough that there needs to be, you know, a point where it becomes part of the accepted value that, I mean, I believe in capitalism, okay, but there's got to be capitalism with a conscience. There has got to be a social safety net. You see, ultimately, getting back to the Urantia book in this, on the one hand, I'm concerned about this country, yes, but on the other hand, I do know that ultimately this is going to turn around. I might not live to see it. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do believe that the Most Highs rule in the kingdoms of men. And I do believe that the watchword of the universe is progress. I mean, that's assured, okay? This planet is going to get to light and life. I mean, that's going to be a gazillion years from now, undoubtedly. But it will happen, Republicans or not.